Hey, Blender Bob here. Hello, people. Are you there? Is anybody here? This is my first live streaming. It's quite exciting. I need to get that chat thing. Where is that? Oh, so it's going to be in this window. That's going to be annoying. Maybe I can look at it in another on the Mac. Hold on one second. First time doing this, huh? So be patient. All right, where am I? YouTube slash Blender Bob. Some people are joining the party. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I can make this smaller. All right. So is the sound okay? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, people in the chat, tell me if you can hear me. Audio is good. All right. So should I wait a minute or two to see if more people join in? Sounds good. All right. Cool. Hey, this is fun. It was a bit stressful at the beginning, just seeing the time going, and I hope it's going to work. And I made a test yesterday, and people started to join in. It's like, no, it's just a test, just a test. All right. So more people. That's good. Cool. Okay, so I guess we can start, and people can just, look at the replay later if they want to. So, it's gonna be complicated. 2 computers, 2 mouse at the same time. Okay, so the idea of this broadcast here is to compare the workflow, the different workflows between Maya and Blender. The idea is not to say, hey, this one is better, this one is worse. The idea is to show that they really don't work the same way when it's time to do UVs. This is not a time where I will go to show every tool and how to unfold models. This is not the goal here. The goal is to show the different workflows so you can see the difference between the two of them, because I had a lot of requests for this on Twitter. So here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is here we're going to take a look at Maya here. You can see here I tried to make the same interface on both sides, so I got my perspective view and my UV editor here. The first thing we're going to see is that Blender, when you start, you have this huge grid here. So you have 10 by 10, but you also have negative UDIMs. Is this useful? If you do production, if you do stuff that you want to bring to Substance, you don't want to go into the negative, but I still use it, and I will show you how later. If you do the same thing in Blender, you realize that you only have one UDIM that's visible. And if you go in the options here, there's nothing. There's no, you go in view, you go anywhere, there's nothing to make it bigger. But, if you select an object and you go into edit mode, any one of them, suddenly you come here and you have, new options that just appeared that were hidden. Why do you need to be in edit mode to see that? I don't know, it should be there by default. So I'm just going to crank this up to 10 by 10 here. You have other options here also that you can play with the UV opacity here. So maybe it's easier when you have images in the back to see what's going on. But I will show you that actually what I prefer to do is if I check in Maya here, what I prefer to do is to actually dim the image. So I will just click on this and I can dim the image. For me, it's more useful to dim the image than to dim the UVs. So that's one way it works. If I put the grid here, and that's another thing. If you have an image here, you see it just changed my view. If I turn this off, change the view again. So that's, for me, it's a little bit annoying, but anyway, I can live with it. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, here if I dim the UVs here, well, it's not helping much. On the other side, I'm pointing at my screen. On the Maya side, I think it's more useful to be able to dim the image if you want to. Right, so let's turn the image off here, and here I don't need it either. There are other options. For example, if you have very complex geometry, it's easier to see when you have a lot of junk. So I will turn this one off and I will go here, select all this and go into edit mode. It's going to take a while. Come on, Blender, you can do it. Come on. Okay, now you see all this mess here. And if you look at the UVs, I don't know how well you can see this on YouTube. You probably can see it. You see every line as an outline here. It's a white line with a black line surrounding it. So this is something you can change here also. So it's outline, you can make it dashed line instead, or you can make it just a black line or a white line. So depending on the image you're editing, maybe sometimes it would be easier to have a black or white one. You cannot do this in Maya. You don't have this option. That's the way it is. You have to live with it, unless you go into your preferences, of course, and you change the colors. So I will keep it at black because that's the way I like it. Otherwise, it's just too much of a mess. So we're going to deal with this van later. Now, that's one thing that's driving me crazy in Blender is to have to be in edit mode to change something, because if you are in Maya, you just click on an object in object mode and you can see your UVs. So if I select all three of them, I can see everything. So that makes a huge difference. I will come back on this later. So I will concentrate a little bit more on the UV, on the Blender, on the Maya stuff for now, because you probably already know Blender. So I'm going to show you the stuff in Maya. So here you have something called the shelf, which is similar to this one here. And the shelves are areas when you can put tools that you use all the time. So you can put them there instead of having hotkeys all the time, because at the point you get so many hotkeys that it becomes impossible to work. It's just too many. Speaking of hotkeys, let me show you something while I think about this. So if I go to my preferences in the hotkey editor, and if you don't know Maya, this is going to blow your mind. Hotkey editor. Where is it? Is it hidden somewhere? Oh, deadline. Bye-bye. Where is my hotkey editor? Window. Preferences. Hotkey editor. I do not see it, which is very frustrating. Oh, maybe it's right here. It's right here. Ah, there it is. This is the hotkey editor in Maya. And you see all the keys that are kind of a turquoise color. That means that they are already taken. And if I press Shift, I get all this available. If I press Control Shift, alternate Shift. So you can see everything that's available. And if you try to add a hotkey to something that's already taken, it's going to give you a message saying, hey, this is already taken, so that you don't get into any conflicts like you can have in Blender, because in Blender you can assign the same hotkey to all the tools you want, and I don't know which one will have priority, but you know, that's the main problem for me in Blender. But this one is so awesome. And if I go here for my custom scripts, for example, so if I go here, I can see the command that it's doing, and I can even make my own hotkeys and my own command here. It could be Mel or Python, and create my own complex hotkey. So I could have a hotkey that makes a lot of stuff, crazy stuff, if I want to. You can do something similar with like PyMenu Editor. I use it a lot, PyMenu Editor. But this is the hotkey editor, and you can search, of course, by application, by command, by hotkeys. So you can you have a lot of control over everything you can do with the hotkey editor. Okay, so that could be an entire new clip about this. So let's go back to this. Where's my Blender? Here. Okay, so that's the shelf. So I put a few tools there that I use all the time. These are always there. Okay, so let's take just Suzanne for now. So this is just the outline. Okay, if I click on the other one, you can see some colors. And you can see one is red and one is blue. So does that remind you of something? Yes, in Blender, if you have a, do we have a Suzanne here? Yes, here. So if I come here, let's remove the textures and just go into edit mode. I'm going to select these faces here, select this, and I'm going to flip the normals. Oops, no, wrong hotkey. Flip the normals. Here, no, I did recalculate. Okay, anyway, I'm just going to go here and display the face orientation. So that's what I wanted to show. So L, where's my flip normal? UV mesh normals flipped. Oh, I lost my hotkey. So you know when we have this in Blender, so you see when it's red, it's flipped. Well, you have the same thing in Maya, but it's for the UVs. Now, you need to understand that flipping the UVs and flipping the normals is not the same thing. Okay, if the normals are flipped, the bump will go the wrong way. If the UVs are flipped, the texture will be backwards. So this is something extremely useful, and you can see that it's live also. So if I pick some UVs here and I just move them, I can see there's an overlap here. There's something flipped. There's something that doesn't work here. So abort. So you can really see if there's something wrong with your geometry. Speaking of something wrong with the geometry, let me fix this before Maya crashes, because if you want to crash Maya, you unfold the UVs on Suzanne and it's going to crash Maya big time. So let me show you what the problem is. It's actually inside. It's on the nose. Here, there are some funky polygons here that are illegal polygons. This one here, which is pretty bad. So let's just split this one here. So I will go with my split polygon tool. I'm just going to click from here to here to here. Okay, and there's another illegal polygon somewhere around the nose. It's this one here on top. You see this? It makes an L shape here. That's totally illegal, and that's like really, really bad. So again, I'm gonna split my polygon from here to here and to here. Oh, it didn't take it, so let's try again. No, not insert. I want split from here. Oh, come on, I'm doing stupid stuff now. Undo. Split from here to here. In Blender, it's really easy. You select your 2 points and you press J and connects them together. There's no such thing in Maya, which really drives me nuts. Modeling is so much better in Blender. So here to here. Why you don't want to cut it? Okay, so you know what? I'm just going to take these faces and triangulate it. Okay, so that will work. But it's still a very funky geometry. Okay, let's keep going. So that was for the view here. You can see what is split. Now I got islands here, but where are my islands on the model? I don't know. There's no way to see it. If I turn this on here, it creates a highlight around the edges. So now you can see, especially if I go here, you will see that this is where my seams are. So in Blender, it's the same thing as mark seams, but you can see it here. And this is very, very useful because sometimes you could have some edges that are split that you don't know about. So if I split this, it looks okay. If you turn this off, you don't know there's a split here, and then you try to unfold some things. I will take some UVs here and I unfold them, and boof, I just created a hole here. See, because I didn't see it. But if this was turned on, whoops, not this one here, then I could have seen that there's a split here, so I could have just merged them together and to avoid this. So these are very, very useful features to be able to see the outline here and to be able to see the reversed one. Here's another one that's really interesting. It's this one here that will show you the corresponding edges. So if I select this one here, I know that this edge is the same as this one. And if, well, maybe Suzanne is not the best. Well, okay, so you see this edge here is the same as this one, and this one is the same as this one. So if I merge them, this one will go connect to this one here. It's going to create a big mess, but you know, this is what it would do. So when you have very complex geometry, this is something you want to use. So let's try it, for example, on the cylinder here. Okay, the cylinder is a big mess. I'll come back to the cylinder because it's for something else that I wanted to show you. Then you have some, you can turn the grid on, you can isolate objects. So I can go UV shell here and just isolate this part if I want to work on it. This is for to dim the image in the background. You have some, this is for the aspect ratio of the texture if it's not 1:1, because Maya by default will stretch it to the full UDIM if you have a texture that is not square, so you can fix it with that. This is very cool. If you have your textures here, what it's going to do is it's going to snap to the pixel. So if I zoom in like crazy here and I take this point here, UV, and I move it, you can see that it snaps on the pixel. So this way you know that you will be exactly where you want on your texture. If this is off, I can be between 2 pixels here. So if I have a let's say a vertical edge somewhere, something that would be very okay, so let's create one. So let's take this one here and I'll just move it and snap it to this one on top. oh, snap. Yeah, okay. So this one here is a vertical edge. I don't know if you can see it on the streaming. So this edge here is between 2 pixels. So if this one is blue and I wanted the other part red, well, it's not going to work here because I'm between 2 pixels. So if you go like this and you snap it, turn the snap on this way, you make sure that you are exactly on the pixel that you want. There's also other features you can do with your image in the background. You can change the exposure. So if it's too dark, I can crank up the exposure to 4, or I can reduce it if it's too bright to 0.2. And you can do the same thing with the contrast. So I can boost the contrast. So sometimes it's easier to see the texture that you use. So, and you can just click on this to reset everything. And you have color management also here. So this is pretty cool stuff. All right, let me take a look at the chat. There's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, the hotkey editor is nice. Okay, so let's continue. Let's talk about projection. If we project UVs on objects. So I got this here. This is a completely messed up geometry. I made it on purpose. I just merged all the edges together. So there are no seams anywhere. If I take this and I do an automatic mapping, I go like this. This is what I get. Okay, which is not very cool because you can see that the circles here are not round and these are curves and they are separate and they're all oriented in a weird way. If I do the same thing in Blender, so let me turn off this. I'm using custom pie menus, by the way, so this is not the goal of this exercise here. So if I select my object here and I go into face mode, I select everything, and then I do my automatic unwrap, so Smart UV Project. And I just go, by the way, always put a little number here so that the islands don't touch completely. You don't want them to touch. You always want to have a little space between them. So if I go OK, this is what I get from Blender. You can see it's already much better. I have different islands here, so I would need to connect them together. So the way to do it would be to select an edge and then to merge them together. So the merge in Blender is called stitch. And it's actually better than Maya because if you stitch, it gives you 2 possibilities. Do you want to connect this one to this one or this one to this one? When you press I, it's going to change the orientation. It doesn't do it. Thank you for this demo. All right, so why it doesn't work? Let me try to... Okay, so how come it doesn't work? So I want to... Maybe I need to select both. Yeah, so now I can, no, I didn't do it. So, okay, I'm having issues here. I'm not going to waste too much time on this, but it's actually pretty cool the way it works in Blender. I don't know why it doesn't work now. So here it connects here, but if I press I is supposed to switch from one to another. I don't know. And here you see I select this edge, but I don't know it corresponds to which one here. So that's kind of weird. I don't know. This is let's go back to this. Okay, so if I was in Blender, I would in Maya, and I would need to fix this. I would select the edge here, and I will merge them together. So this works. So you see, this is what I meant. So Maya always takes the smallest part and merge it with the biggest one. But in Blender, you can choose which one you want. I don't know why in my demo it doesn't work here. Maybe I'm too stressed doing something live. I don't know. But this is how I would do it. So I would just fix all that stuff here. Whoops, I don't want to. And then I would just press on K. That will orient everything the best it can. And then I would select this island here, press J to grid it, and then U to unfold. Maybe I grid it again. And these, I will just unfold them. And then I have my entire thing. I can just lay out my parts together. Usually what I do, I don't like to have parts that are separated. So I like to merge everything together. So I go on the edge here. See, I get the corresponding edge. Edge here. I can see it. So I would connect this and I would connect this here or in the center or whatever. So now it's in one part. If I go here, you can see also that it highlights as I over or just run over the object. It highlights. And the viewport works. It works both ways, and this is extremely useful. Extremely useful. This is something that I would love to have in Blender. I don't know why it didn't work before for what I was trying to do. Before I was telling you also, I'm sorry it's a little bit all over the place, but yeah, that's the way it is. It's a live show. If I do my my automatic UVs here. Where is it? Okay, I'll just do it from here. So Smart UV Project, if you put this to 0 and you just go OK, see everything is touching, and you don't want that. I know you want to optimize your texture space as much as possible, but this is not good because you could have bleeding from one part to another. So if you have to do something like this, then always change here, give it a little bit, 0.1, maybe it's too much, but you see now you get a big distance between them. Okay, now if we want to do projections, okay, in Blender you have a few projections you can do for, like this is a cylinder, okay, and I want to do a cylindrical projection. So I will go again in my face, and then I need to select all. Then I will go in my UVs, and I will do a cylindrical projection. And then what? I get this thing here, which is completely useless. But then I have some settings here, but I don't know what they do exactly, and it does different things here, but it's absolutely not obvious what it does, and it's kind of useless. Let me show you the same thing here. So if I come here, I don't need, by the way, to be in edit mode or anything when you work in UVs in Maya. There's no such thing as a, actually it's kind of a UV mode, but it switches automatically. So I'm here and I want to do a cylindrical projection, which is this one here. When I click on it, come on. When I click on my projection, here, cylindrical projection. Okay, I did two by mistake. So let me just take this one here, cylindrical. Why you don't want to do my cylindrical projection? This is a automatic mapping. This is cylindrical. Anyway, you can see my cylindrical projection here. It appears here. And this is how the texture is going to be projected. So I can turn it around. Right now it's doing 180 degrees. So I want it to do a full 360 degrees. And if I click on the little red thing here, then I can change and I can orient this the way I want. So now I get this thing here. Of course, cylindrical projection will not work on the top. It's only going to work on the side. But you see, now I can adjust it and make it clean. And then I could select my two faces here and do an automatic mapping on these two, and I get this. Then I just need to unwrap, orient, and layout. So how come is it that when I had this thing here I could see my projection? It's because I could see two projection. It's because Maya has a concept of construction history, meaning every changes you make on a geometry you can always go back and change it. So if I'm here and I have my let me move this up a little bit. So you get all my projections here. So I have this one here. Why I don't see it? I should see it. That's because I did a tweak. Where's the projection? Cylindrical projection is here. So see, it's here, and I can always go back and change it. And everything after will reapply. So I changed my projection, but you see the automatic projection I did on the top still applies because there's construction history on it. And I had the first auto project that I did before, so the other one will override it. So construction history is something that is not in Blender, but you could get something similar with geometry node, because it's kind of, Maya is actually kind of working like GeoNode. Everything is a node that's connected to another one, connected to another one. And what you can do at one point is just delete the history on your object. So you will go here, edit, and delete the history on your object. So delete by type, history, and now it's clean. There's nothing. I cannot go back and change the settings. But if I take this sphere here, you see polysphere, this is the history of the sphere, that subdivision of 20 by 20. I can always go back and change it later. So it's not a problem. In Blender, once you created your sphere and you click outside, that's it, you're done. And you click on another object, you're done. You cannot do anything about it. Okay, so we've seen that stuff. Now I want to show you what bothers me in Blender. Okay. The first thing is that you need to be in edit mode. And also there's this live link thing that you have that is driving me crazy. So I come here and you see you have this live thing here. So if I click on it, that means that if I select something here, it's going to select it here. Same thing here. If I select it, wow, Okay, it's a big mess. We don't see anything. Let's just do a projection on this one so that we see what we're doing. So I'm going to do this. I need to select everything. So I click on A to select everything. Then I'm going to do a project from view. Now I have it. Okay, this is the UV that I wanted. Okay, I will scale them a little bit. So this is move, scale. Whoops, I inverted it. Okay, J, I'm getting mixed up between my two software. All right, so now I got my projection. What was the point? Oh yeah, this thing here, this live thing here. So if I'm like this, it selects here. If I select here, it's here. So it's live, okay? It does everything. But here's the difference. Here's the problem, actually. If I select if I'm in face mode and I select this and I move them, it separates them. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to separate them. I want to move the entire island. But I don't have the select island thing anymore. Here I have it. Oh, but now I lost my selection. So I need to go back here and I need to select all. And now I can select my island. But here everything is highlighted, but only this one I'm moving. So you see how I was just like, ah! And then I turn this back on. Now everything is selected. I go back. Okay, now this time it worked. And now I'm in island mode. Why do I see all the vertices, all the UVs? I don't want to see them. I just want to see a clean geometry. I don't need to see all these vertices here. So I want to keep it as clean as possible. But and that's the problem here. When I'm like this, it doesn't work. And let's try it on something simpler. Let's go back to Suzanne here. So face mode. See, I'm here. I select a face. If I move this face, I just separated it from the rest of the island. I don't want that. Why is it doing this? I don't know. That's the concept behind it. And if I go into vertex mode and I select this one here, you see, I'm selecting not the UVs, but I'm selecting the vertex. So if I move this one, I'm moving both at the same time. I don't see any point in doing this. There's no reason to do this. In the UV editor, the only thing I want to move is UVs. So it's a different way of working. But this thing is driving me crazy because you keep switching from one another, then you lose all your selection, then you have to select all. And oh, I don't have the eye, so now I need to select the eye, and then I need to go like this and press L to select the everything related. Whoops, I lost my selection, then select the other one. Or I could go select all. It's driving me nuts. If you want to select islands from here, you need to be in UV mode, and this is hidden in the selection here. And even, you see, even if I'm like this, it doesn't select. I need to press L first, and then I'm going to be selecting the entire island. I think it's a workflow that's too complicated to have to switch this thing on and off all the time. And when you use some tools, sometimes some add-ons will say, oh, it doesn't work with this. You have to turn it off. I don't know. If somebody can explain this to me, please do, because I just don't understand how it works. Let me show you here the van. Here we're going to go in the van. I'm going to turn this off. And as I said in Blender, in Maya, you don't need to be in an edit mode or in whatever to see your UV. You can just be in object mode. I can select everything and I will see all the UVs. And you see it was quite fast, and I see all the UVs there, and it's a big mess. Okay. So when I do UVs, usually what I do is I will select something. So in object mode, I will select this object, for example, and let's say I will go on the side and I will do a planar projection. So I can just go here, planar. I don't know why I need to do this one first, because the planar doesn't work for some reason. See, that's a planar projection. And I also have a manipulator, so I can, if I look at it here, it covers 100% of the area when I do the planar projection, and I can scale it, I can move it, I can rotate it. I can do whatever I want. So this is pretty cool because it gives you a lot of control over it. So I got my object here, and usually what I do is I just lay out my objects, and now I can already see that this one is flipped. So on the other side, if I put my texture on, I don't have the shader on this one. Let me see. Assign favorite existing material. That would be grid. Where is it? Oh, I think I changed the name. Okay. So the writing is on the right side here. If I go on the other side, it's backwards. So we don't want that. So we know that this is the one that's backward. I can select the entire UV shell and flip it. Now I know it's going to be okay this way. Whoops. So I select both of them, layout, and here we go. So what I will do is I will do part by part. I will unfold everything and then move them somewhere else in the negative UVs. Why? Because I just want to put them on the side for now, and later I will play with them. So let's do the same thing with the door here. Go on the side view. I think there's a project from view also, camera based. So I can, or best plane. So let's try camera based. See, it did it. Oh, but it stretched it, so it's not good. So instead I will just do a planar. Oops, on the wrong side. So let's go here, select my object, make sure I'm in project view. Oh, so it's projecting in the x-axis. Okay, so now it's okay. Same thing here. I will select this, layout my object, select my UV shells and layout. I can see that this one and this one, they need to be flipped. So I'll flip them, select everything, layout, and move them somewhere else. Now, the cool thing is that I can work on all the objects at the same time. Of course, now I'm going to have a mess, but oops, I moved them at the same place. So, and I just use the cursor keys to move them from side to side, which is something that would be very cool here, because now if I want to move this on this side, whoa, okay, I'm in Blender now. So if I want to move this, I need to press J and 1 to move it. Having the cursor would be much nicer. There are ways to do it with the UV toolkit, but I will come back to this later. So the keys are just very fast, and having to go J1, J-1, J-2, -5. No, you just want to do this faster. So let's say that I did everything. Okay, so I will go to the one that's unfolded. Okay, I don't want this sphere here. Now if I select everything, you can see that I got all my stuff all over the place. Now the problem is that the texel density is not the same. So if I apply shaders to all these parts, okay, now the van is white and it highlights in white, so that's not very good. We cannot see that they are highlighted, but they are. So let's say I assign this my existing material, which is checker here. You can see the texel density is not the same. Okay. So what I do usually is I take the biggest part of my object, which in this case is this. Actually, it's the bottom, but I don't care about the bottom. We're never going to see it. So this is my biggest part, and this is going to be my reference. Okay. So what I want to do is to have all the parts to match the texel density here. And to do this, there are ways to do it in Blender, but there's an add-on that I have that is very useful, and it didn't work last night when I was preparing this demo because it was for an old version of Maya and it wasn't compatible. So I had to go ask my friend ChatGPT to fix it for me, and it did. So it's called size here. So what I do is I select this and I say pick checker size. So this is my reference. Then I can take this and go set the size of the object. And now you see I got the perfect size. And I can do it on multiple objects if I want to. Now the beauty of this is that if I go here and I go in my layout and I look at these, you see the layout that I have here? Well, I have two possibilities. I can go per object, and you see they kept the same proportion, they kept the same layout, or I can go with this one here. Whoops, didn't do what I wanted to do. So UV shell. I haven't used this in a long time. And did I crash? And I think we have a Maya crash. Blender is still working. And we crashed Maya. Okay, time to take some water. Is it going too fast? Because I'm just going crazy like I'm on cocaine or something. I'm not. So, all right. So let's kill Maya. Closed window. Nope. Okay. Maya. And task. Bye-bye. Okay, bye. Let's try Maya again. Oops. Maya. Maya takes a long time to load. Loading, loading. Yeah, you don't want to be in a rush when you work on Maya. All right, we're back. So Sprinter Master. And I don't have, it didn't keep the layout. There's an option to keep the layout, but I turned it off because sometimes you may have some issues. For example, if you crash while displaying the textures and then you want to reopen your file, it's going to try to display the texture again, and then forget it, you turn in an infinite circle and it's just not cool. So panel, I will split it in two. So panel, no, layout stack on top, two pane stack. It's much faster to just drag from the bottom, but hey, you know. And the panel we want here is the UV editor. Okay, and we were working on the unfolded car. So I was talking about the Texel density. So the idea was that you can change the Texel density and keep the layout or not. We'll see in Blender how we can do this with an add-on. So assign existing material, default checker, textures. There we go. So I'm not going to try it again because I don't want to crash again. But you know, at the end, what you're supposed to get is something like this. I don't have any shader on it. Or so assign material, existing default checker. So you see now everything is at the same size, and this is perfect if you want to bring this into, well, there's some stretching here because I did a projection and I did kind of fast, but this is what you should get. If you do the same thing for the texel density in Blender, so let me show you some cool stuff. There's an add-on called Texel Density Checker, okay? And this is, I hope I have the textures. I hope this is the unfolded model. Let me check first. Ah, no, it's the big mess. So I don't want the raw. Okay, so we'll turn this off, and I will just actually open the Sprinter. Is there a Sprinter finish somewhere? I'll try this one. Oh, I need to come back to this to show you something that is a proper suggestion from someone at the office that is very, very cool. So let me check if this works. I will not take all the objects, otherwise it's going to be too long. So face, okay, this is a mess. It's not the right one. So printer, what printer demo? I was on printer demos. Printer, let's try this one. Yeah, okay, so I got my mess here. I need to select one of them. I will go back here. This should be by default. So everything's a mess. All right. There's no texture on it. All right, so let's go with our Texel Density Checker add-on. It's a very cool add-on, and I think it's free. So what you want to do is first to select the size of the texture you're going to use. So it's going to be like a 2K texture because it's going to calculate it differently if you work one way or, you know, depending on the size of your texture. So it's doing something here, which I'm not too sure what it is. Takes a long time because everything is selected. It's probably trying to set up a texture for every object. I don't know. All right, now it's done. So face, if I select this, and I select the entire thing here, I can assign a checker material. Okay, that's the first thing we want to do, is to assign something so that we can see what we're doing the same way I did in Maya. Now, when you do it, you have two options here. You can do store and replace or replace. I want to do store and replace because this is just a temporary texture, because later I want to go back to the texture, the shader that was there before. So I'm just going to use store and replace. So I assign this shader here. And I should see, oh, it's having a hard time. Maybe I should make it to 512. Come on. Okay, so this is not cool. Okay, I'll go to Maya in the meantime to explain something while Blender is working on something. Now I got a shader on everything on my object, but let's say that I have another object. So I will go back to one that has the original shader, so I can undo here maybe. All right. If I wanted to add a temporary texture here in Blender, the way to do it, in Maya, the way to do it is to go on the render layer, which is this one here. I will select all my object here, and I will put them into a new layer. Okay, so my van is on, come on, both, oops, assign selected objects. Okay, so both software are working hard. So what you do in Maya is to just go here and to say you want to override the shaders. So you create and you assign an existing material, which is going to be my checker shader. And now it did everything here. And if I want to remove it later, I just go here and I go override, remove render material override, and I will go back to what I had before. So, but this is also for rendering. So you can, it's the same thing in Blender if you want to do the layer override, but the only way to see it in Blender is to render in cycle. So it's not very useful. So looks like Blender is not happy either. So we're gonna kill our Blender. And next time I will try at 512, close the program. Yeah. And don't send a report to Microsoft. All right. Also, comments in French. I will have to read all that stuff later. It's going to take me forever. So, Sprinter demo. Okay, so I was working on this one here. So I will leave it at 512. And I will select only a few objects. So I won't do it on all of them just to make sure that it's not too much. So 512, assign material. Oh, come on. I do this all the time. Don't give me that now. Fun. Here we go. Okay, turns out the UVs are not done on this on these objects, so I'm gonna select all three of them, and I'm just gonna project something from the side. So edit mode and UV project from view. All right, and then here I will select everything and just scale a little bit. Whoa. It's kind of slow. The UV editor is not that fast. This is a simple geometry, and it's having a hard time just dealing with this. And I'm working on a 4090, may I remind you. So I'll just scale it a little bit just to make it fit into the UDIMs. Okay, good enough. So I have this shader here, and oh, but I wanted to check different density. So select this one, select all. I will scale this one, and I will object, select this one, change. That's the part that's just driving me nuts, to always have to select, deselect, change mode, pick, close, select all, face. So scale, and I will make this one like this. Okay, so now we have different texel density. That was the point of the exercise. So what I want to do is to select my big part here, and I want to say calculate the texel density. And it gives me a 0.93 whatever. One thing you want to make sure is to make sure that all the transformation are applied. You want to make sure that it's done, otherwise it's going to give you some wrong values. So if I go on my item, yeah, I did it already because it was like that before. So I got my texel density here. Where is it? Texel density. It's like this. You can just calculate and set value. It's just going to copy this value and put it here, so you don't have to do it yourself. It's just like that. Then you select any object that you want, and you can set the texel density. So it's the same thing as in Maya, but you can do it with this add-on. Now, did you see something in particular? I wasn't in edit mode. I can do this in object mode. Yay, thank you. This is great. Okay, so there are other options, but this is what you need to know, the more important thing to know if you want to have the same texel density everywhere. I don't think there are tools in Blender that will align, that will set the texel density. The only thing you can have, I think, is when you do your layout, again, face, select all. When you do your packing, you have an option to pack with average island scale. Will do it, but then your stuff will be all over the place. This one will just, do it. So that's a very useful tool, the equivalent of Maya. Now, why is Maya so powerful for unfolding UVs? Oh, I forgot to show you one of the most powerful thing about unfolding UVs in Maya. I got a sphere here, okay? And I have this tool here that's called the UV, the whatever cut and sew, 3D UV cut and sew interactive. Look at this. I select this tool, I double click on the edge, and you see I just cut. It's like create seam in Blender, but it actually does it. It cuts. You can see it cuts. I double click on this one, it cuts, and you see the islands take a different color, which is so useful because you know that you really separated these parts. So if one edge was missing, for example this one, I will know that even if there's a seam here, it's hard to see, but there's a white line around, I know that I'm missing one somewhere. So I can see it's right here because I have this thing on, so I know, oh, I'm missing this one, and I can cut from here or I can cut from here. I can cut and draw just like this. You see, I just cut and it separated everything. I can just draw to cut my thing. If I double click here, look at this. Look, it's intelligent enough to know that, hey, there's a cut here, there's a cut here. Chances are you don't want to go all the way there, so I'm just going to stop here. And this is mind-blowing. I want this so badly in Blender to be able to have different colors for different islands. It's the same thing as if you pretty much go here and, no, actually in Blender, it's the same thing as if you go like this and you go into random. So you have different thing here. Same thing, but with the UVs. And if it's possible to do with object, must be possible to do with UVs. So we want that. So that's one of the most powerful tools that you have in Maya. Now, what about these tools? Well, we're not going to go through all of them because you can see there's tons of them, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. Now, every time you see a little thing here, that means there are some options for that tool. So if I want to go into, for example, layout here, and I go in the options, these are all the options that I can do for layouts. I can set my resolution. I can set if I want rotations on them, if I want to translate the shell, if I want to rotate the shell, the texture map size, the padding, and you have all these options that you have here. So we're not going to go through all of them. And you don't have to go in the menus also because you have something called the UV toolbox, UV toolkit, sorry, which is that thing here. And I will expand a lot of stuff. Actually, I will expand everything. You cannot just drag like you do in Maya, just all the way down. So these are all the tools in a nice, convenient interface. Okay. So you can do some stuff like, for example, the same thing as you can do in Maya here, where you can select, for example, if I, my God, I'm getting so tired. I will exit the tool here. I'll go back into my object mode. Okay, so you can select, for example, some. Will you get out of this tool? Okay, so I can select some UVs here, for example, and I can pin them. Okay, we have this in Blender too, so I can select these polygons here, and I can pin them here, UV pin. Okay. Now there's a difference because this one here, if I select everything, and I go into well, let's say I will screw up the UVs first. So let's screw up everything. Well, you see now that's the problem, is that you can move pin points No, the point of pinning something is that it doesn't move. So now if I unfold this, unwrap, well, these points didn't move, everything else moved. But the idea is that when you pin something, they cannot move. Here, they are pinned. If I try to move them, they won't move. They are pinned. That's the idea. Okay, so that's one of the difference. And you also have a pin tool, which allows you to paint where you want to, what you want to pin. And you have a nice gradient also, so you don't have to make it, you know, you can play with your selections and all this stuff. So you don't have to be either on or off. You can pin it. You can invert the pin. That's coming to Blender actually. And I can unpin all. So here you have, you don't have unpin all. You only have unpin. So that means that if I only have this selected and I do unpin, I will only unpin these. So that means I need to select them all and then I need to unpin. So, you know, not a big difference, but it's very similar. You have the option of selecting back-facing surfaces. So if I have this here, let's see, and this one is backwards. So I know this one is backwards, and I'm going to do two things actually. I'm going to select this shell here and I will move it on top of this one. So I have the option here of selecting what is back facing. So you see it selected this one because it's back facing. All these, most of these tools I'm showing you here, you can get them here in the UV toolkit. You see here, UV toolkit, UV toolkit, UV toolkit, UV toolkit. Coincidence? I don't think so. And if you look at it, it's very, very similar. Even some stuff are in the same order. So you have the option here also. So let's do it on this object, the same object. Object mode, select this one, edit mode, select all, layout. No, there's no layout here. It's a pack. I lost my selection. Select this, back, islands. Okay, so I have my two islands here. I don't know which one is flipped. I have no way to know. So there's a way to select the, let me extend this a little bit. So flip islands, I can do this, but you see the problem is that it detects that on this object there are flip objects, but it doesn't know which island, so it selects everything. So that's a problem with this add-on. It's not as, you know, it's not as efficient. So if I select this part here instead and I separate it, and now I take these two objects, go back into face mode, select all. Now if I go to select, where is it? Select flip islands. Let's still do it. Huh, strange. Okay, so it should only select one of them because I separated them, right? I did separate them, yeah. Okay, so something buggy about this thing here. So let's go back. You can backface overlapping, so it selects parts that are overlapping, which is very good. You have the same thing in Blender somewhere. I need to go back in edit mode, and there's one that says overlapping somewhere. Anyway, it exists. It's already in Blender. Overlapping, so texture borders, you can select just the edges. Overlap, non-overlap. So you have many ways of selecting stuff here. You can transform them. If I want it at the corner here, you can set your pivot where you want the pivot, like of the bounding box of the object. So this way, if I make a rotation, I will make it from here. So you have different options for the pivot for the objects. Now it's in the center. You have some tools for rotating. You have the same thing here for rotating. I think they're on top here, so you can rotate. There's two ways to rotate. So right now I decided it was 90 degrees. It could be local or global. So global, it's gonna rotate 90 degrees like this. Or local, well actually I need two objects in order to do this. So let's take this and this. I need to go back to face mode. I need to select all. Okay, so if I'm global, they're all gonna move together. And if I'm local, they're all gonna move on their own pivot. Okay, so that's the difference between global and local. Okay, so that's for the rotations. So scaling, yeah, you have the similar options here. That's in flip and all this stuff. This is flip U, flip V, flip X, flip Y, flip Y. That's the same thing. You have the texel density here also. You have a tool for the texel density where you can get something and set it to something else. So if I go here in object mode, I can say that I want to get the sample density for this one, and I want to set it on this one here. So this one and this one set, and now it's set the same texel density. But the problem with this one is that you see the layout I had here. If I do this, I lose the layout. So that's why the tool I was using before is better, because it doesn't screw up your layout. These are all the projections that you have. So there's a bunch of them, and they all have the manipulators I was showing you before. Cut and sew, so you can cut and stitch stuff. You have something similar in Blender, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. Unfolding, you have different ways of unfolding in Maya. In Blender too, but it's kind of hidden actually. So let me select the shell here. I'll move it out of the way. UV shell. Come on. What are you doing? Move. Move. Am I in a tool or what? Yay, another time I look stupid. All right, let's try again. UV shell. Move. This is really strange. It doesn't want to move. Okay, so let's try another object. Whoa, I'm in proportional modification mode. So I don't want that. How do I get rid of this? It's B, I think. Yeah. I haven't touched Maya in such a long time. I'm so lost in everything. Okay, now it should be working. No, my move doesn't work. It's locked there. This is weird. And I forgot what I wanted to show you. So UVs. Wow. What is going on here? You cannot edit a live show, huh? You cannot just... Oh, is it pin? No, I don't think it's pin. So unpin all. Whoops. Front facing. Unpin all. Okay, let's try. It's stuck on the marking menu for some reason. Fun. Okay, you know what? Let's reload the scene. Okay, I will work with Suzanne instead. No, it looks like the entire thing is weird. No, okay, it's working. So I need to split this panel into layout to stack. Okay, so where is Suzanne? Oh, is this the fixed Suzanne? I don't think I saved it, huh? Nah, it's not fixed. So you know what? I'm just gonna delete these weird faces instead. It's gonna be faster than trying to correct them. Here, that should be okay. This one too. Face. Wow, there's something funky going on here. Okay, so I wanted to show you different ways of unfolding in Maya. So if I move this around just to screw up my UVs, okay. So I could select some of them, and there's this one here that's called where you can unfold. You can just go like this, and you can drag to unfold the things. Or you have relax, which is another way to do this. You also have different ways to do it. So one is optimized, which is another way to do it. Now you see it won't do it because it says there are non-manifold polygons in this geometry because we said it before, Suzanne is really, really bad model. So I will just ask it to fix it first, and then it can do it. So optimize is one way to do it. You have an optimized tool also where you can paint, but maybe it's already optimized. So let me just move some stuff around. Okay, so let's try again. Optimize tool, and doesn't do anything. Fun. Fixed. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't want to do it. Okay, so stupid. I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting tired. You have the unfold. Maybe I need to select them first. Yeah. So where's my optimize tool? Yeah, okay, so I needed to optimize them. I needed to select them first to tell it what I want to paint on. So unfold, and you have unfold tool also, which is another way that will unfold. Of course, now it looks like I always get the same result, but they will give you different ways of unfolding the UVs, and you can unfold along the U and the V. If you want to do something similar in Blender, no, it's J in Blender, so let's screw this up. So when you unfold something, you have unwrap, you have light pack, so you have different ways of doing it, but here, hidden here, you have different ways to do it also. So you have different options that are hidden there, so if you don't know about them, it won't do much. Okay, so that was something that was hidden here that I didn't know about, that I learned when I was talking with one of the Blender developers. What else we got? The orient shell tool and everything, this is pretty cool stuff. This is something that doesn't come with Blender by default, where can you just, okay, if I, for example, if I have my shell here and it's like this, what I can do is select an edge and say I want to orient it on this edge because I know this one should be vertical, then it's going to orient everything on the shell here. So if I go here into, I need to go to object mode, select this, go to face, and now I have it. Now I can come here and I can select the entire thing. I can go to rotate it. Okay, now I need to go in edge, select this edge here. So you have the same thing in the UV toolkit here, and you can see it's very similar. Orient shell to edge, stack shell, unstack shell. It's the same thing here. It's almost the same order. So you can do it here also in Blender. You can orient the shell here. Why these moved? I don't know, because this one is not connected. It should not. It should only affect this one because they are not connected. So see, it's nice, but it's not perfect. You have some distribute stuff that you can do in both. So if I go back to my tool here, so I select all these, I can distribute them. And it created some crap because it distribute actually works on vertices, on UVs. So let me put this back. See, that's the problem with distribute, is that all these work on islands except for distribute. So that's a little bit confusing. So let me just orient this. And now I'm going to select these points here. See, they have a different distance between them. And if I go distribute, now they all have the same distance. If you want to distribute the islands themselves, you could maybe, I don't think there's one here. Maybe there is. But one thing you could do is to stack the islands and then you unstack them, and it's going to put them right next to each other. So that's one way to do it. You have ways to do it in Maya also. So yeah, the UV toolkit is trying to reproduce the stuff that you have in Maya, but it's a little bit buggy sometimes. There's one thing that Maya doesn't have and this one has, and it's really cool. Find UDIM crossing, and you see this one here, it's crossing the line here, and it should not cross the line. So by doing this, you can find everything that's wrong. So one thing I suggested when I had my meeting with the dev is to have a check tool. This is something we had at Method. It was pretty complex, actually, the one we had. It was checking the naming convention, the grouping, the naming. It was checking everything, but it would do also a lot of checks on the UVs. So what could it check? It was, whoops, wrong mouse. Hold on one second. So the thing it would check was, let me just go back to find it. Okay, so flip UVs, UDIM border crossing, like I just showed you, geometry that doesn't have any UVs, because it can happen. You can have geometry that doesn't have any UVs on it, and if you try to bring this to another software, you will have issues, obviously. So you need to flag objects that don't have any UVs. Islands in the negative UV space, you don't want that, of course. The Texel Density checker, something that will check that everything has the same Texel density. This, it would highlight everything that doesn't have the same density, but sometimes you don't want everything to have the same density. For example, if you have a big object and you have screws, little tiny screws, well, maybe you don't want to have the same texel density for the screws because they will have like 10 by 10 pixel on the entire texture. So you may want to get your screws and make them a little bit bigger. Okay, so these are exceptions that you do. Overlapping UVs, you don't want overlapping UVs. Even if you have, for example, tires, okay, you may think that, well, if I have a tire and I have the side view of the tire and I have some writing, well, maybe I want all the UVs to be on top of each other. This way, they will all have the same writing. No, you don't. You want to have all tires side by side, and you copy the texture 4 times. Why? Because if later you want to put some dirt on the wheels, that means all the wheels will have the exact same dirt. So you don't want that. Okay, so that's very important. Geometry with 0 surface area. So if I take a sphere and I collapse all the points, I will have 0 geometry area, and I will still have UVs and stuff and everything, but it has zero geometry area. We don't want that. Just a single edge in the space that just floats somewhere. You cannot texture this. It shouldn't be there, so scrap it. Non-manifold geometry, of course, you don't want to have anything with a non-manifold geometry. What else did I tell this guy? This we saw. I want to tell you the way I would love to be able to work to do this, and the way I would love Blender to work with UVs. So first of all, no things like going to edit mode. Okay, if I want to see my UVs, I want to see my UVs. I don't want to have to go to edit mode, pick my thing, select all, or L for just this. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, it's a lot of trouble. And until I go to here, vertex, here, now I see the vertex. If I'm on anything else, edges or faces, I don't want to see I don't want to see all the vertices. If I'm in face mode, I just want to see the faces. If I'm in edge, well, the edges are always there. And if I'm here, I don't want to see all these vertices. Okay, so that would be something that's very cool. And if I'm in Maya here, select my objects. See, I just need here, I'm in my UV editor, everything is already there. I just need to go UV shell, I select my shell, I move it somewhere else, and I don't need to go in edit mode, and I don't have any link stuff. Everything is always live. It's so much faster, so much easier. The highlights, see, when you go over, this is something that is so useful. I want this also. For me, that would be very important to have this in Blender. Okay, so that resumes one of the things I was explaining. When you display the textures, okay, when you have your textures here and display them and you have UDIMs, you have tons of UDIMs, it's going to load all the textures for all the UDIMs. Okay? Now that can be a problem, because if you have too many textures that are 4K, it's going to load all these 4K textures into memory and it's going to become unusable. Okay? It's going to be too heavy. Maya can do it. Why? Because Maya use MIP mapping. What is MIP mapping is that every time you render something, RenderMan has it, and Arnold, Gary, all the renderers have MIP mapping except Cycles. I don't know why. I know there were some talks like 7 years ago to try to implement it, but it never happened. MIP mapping, it will convert your texture into a giant texture. Let's say you have an 8K texture. So in the same image, you will have an 8K, a 4K, 2K, all the way down to something like 32 by 32, something very small. And when you want to display something on screen, or when you want to render it, if your object is very far away, you don't need an 8K texture for something that's very far away. It will calculate that, hey, for this one, I just need 512, so I'm going to show 512. So it's the same thing in the UV editor. I don't know how Pablo does the full screen stuff to show himself. You will see me tiny, but anyway. So that's how it does. So you can have a lot of textures in the UV editor and you can zoom out and still workable because it doesn't display all the full res images. It will just, as you load, it will, and it's completely transparent. As it loads, it will just update to a higher resolution texture. So this is very important. On the Predator, you know the movie Predator that came out like 6 years ago, something like this. The Predator ship had 200 UDIMs. Okay, so you can imagine 200 UDIMs. It's huge. So imagine 200 textures on this when turn it on. It was unworkable even in Maya. I mean, you had to work only on little parts of the ship because the entire thing was too heavy. But in Blender, it would have just choked and that's it. Forget it. Game over. UDIMs. Sorry, things just come out of my mind as I think about them. Where's my van here? Oh, it's a new scene. Okay, so let me go back to... I want to show you the way that I would do the final result for the van, how I would do it. So display here, this is the finished version of the van. So if I select this, I will split this again in two. Actually, I will just pop it out. Here, UV editor. Where's my UV editor? Here, I just popped it out on top. So if I select my van here, this is the final result. Okay. Now, what you need to understand is that UDIMs are not an image sequence that starts at 1001. In the first implementation of UDIMs for Blender, it was like this. It was considered as an image texture that starts at 1001 and goes all the way to whatever you want. This is not the way it is. UDIMs are tiles, texture tiles. And what you're seeing right now is a completely legal way to do it, except for that sphere here that's not supposed to be selected. So let me just remove this. And the sphere, where's that sphere? Okay, it's gone. All right, so this is, it may look like crazy if you work in gaming to see there's so much waste here. It could be so much better, more packed and everything. In gaming, yes. In gaming, you will try to optimize your textures as much as possible, and the entire van would be one texture. In VFX, that's not the case. In VFX, we will spread it on multiple UDIMs, and this is what I did here. So all these, whoops, all of these, so it's stuck again on that select thing here. On the anyways, all the first row here at the bottom, this is all the car paint. Everything here is everything that's transparent, so the windows and the lights in the back. These are probably the everything that's chrome in here, and these are the everything that's plastic, gray plastic. Then you have everything that's rubber, so the rubber trims and the tires, and then you have the bottom of the van. So it may look like, hey, this is insane. No way I would do this. I need to pack everything. No, if you work in VFX, this is perfectly acceptable. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of waste in it, but it's better for the people who do the textures because they will know, okay, this entire row I know I can select all this stuff and assign everything on it. If you pack everything, if I take this entire thing here, I hope I will be able to, it's okay, now it's working. So if I take all, hello, what is wrong with my Maya? Why it doesn't want to select anything anymore? It's completely busted. So let's go select all. Okay. See, select doesn't work. Oh, here we go. So if I lay out this stuff, okay, this is probably going to take a while. So it's going to put everything into one UDIM, okay, like in video game. You give me something like this, you're going to do push-ups. Okay, I'm going to send it back. No, I'm not taking this, because if you bring this to Substance, it's going to be total hell to try to find where is what. Everything will be spread all over the place, and it's not going to be organized. So I need everything to be organized. You can see it, all the tires here, they're all together. And the van here is a perfect reflection of this one. So I know that if I have I don't know, a word written on this, I can put it on the other side, and it's going to work. I can just flip the image. So keep everything organized and neat. Okay. There are add-ons for Blender that can push it much more than the two add-ons I just showed you. There's Zen UVs, and there's a bunch of them, and some of them will allow you to pack stuff by groups, by textures, by things like that. That's very useful. The idea here in doing this clip is to show at least the basic stuff we can add in Blender to make it usable, because by default, just the Blender UVs, if you don't have the UV toolkit and you don't have the Texel Density thing, it's kind of, it's too basic. Okay, so is it doing anything? It's still working hard, and this is on a 32. Oh, it didn't do it. It didn't. Yeah, why is it stuck on this? This is so annoying. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna close. I'm gonna kill my Maya. Come on. Get out. Out. Wow. Exit. Don't want to go? Whoops. If I say you go, you go. Oh. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's try again. How long have we been doing? So 1 hour and 16 minutes. I can understand why Pablo is so tired at the end of this. It's really exhausting to do this stuff, and it's a lot of preparation actually. Alright, let's go back. Pablo, I got great respect for you. You're doing an amazing job. So finished. Select all this. Then I go into my UV editor. Here. Come on, show me everything. Update. Here we go. Select everything. Is it working? UV shell. Now it's working. I'm just going to remove the outline just so it goes faster. And now I will lay out everything. Fix. Oh, it doesn't want to do it because it has some non-manifold. So the geometry is not clean, so it won't do it. So the geometry is not clean. I cannot do what I wanted to show you. Well, let's try just on these. It's on this part that there's something wrong. Okay, this is what I was talking about. See all this crap here, all these little tiny things and everything. You cannot use this. Okay, it's unusable in the substance. It's just a total mess. So you give me something like this, you're gonna do push-ups. Is there anything that we still need to see? You have some stuff that can select similar. So if I can select this one here, am I in UV shell? And you can say like select similar things. Is that on to stack? There's a stack similar somewhere. Stack similar, and it should take every object that is similar and put them on top. And it didn't for some reason. But anyway, if it did work, I would have all of them on top of each other. Then I could spread them, distribute them. So the way to distribute stuff in Maya is to select these objects here, and you have a distribute here. You see a little distance that you want. You click on it, and it's going to distribute these UVs. Wow. So slow. What's going on? I got a 32 car machine. Come on. Okay, maybe this is a message from the God to say that it's time to stop this demo because everything is falling apart. Let me see if we have questions that I could answer. So I didn't check at all on all the questions. Oh, something happened. All right, any questions? Anything that I could answer? I'm going to... Okay, some people are having conversations. Did I ask them to get rid of the sync UV off mode? Yes, I did. I did really much. Yeah, because that's the biggest thing for me. It's just driving me crazy that you keep going from, you know... You're here, and then I want to select this part here. I want to see the UV on this one. I need to go back to object mode. Then I need to select it. Then I need to go back into this one. And then I want to see both of them. So I need to go back to object mode. And I press shift. And then I need to go back to face mode. And then I need to select all. If you keep selecting and deselecting and changing mode, it's just like, oh my God, it's painful. It's just driving me crazy. It's just, nope. What else? Can you select another mesh in edit mode without going back to normal mode? Go to the window with mesh list on top right and click the orange circle. Okay, I don't know what that means, but hey, you want to see something cool? Look at this. So I'm here in object mode, okay, and I select another one, and this one I want to select the vertices. This one is in object mode, this one is in edit mode. Pretty cool, huh? And if I move, I will move both, one as an object and one as edit mode. I never used it, but there are some functions in Maya actually that you need both. Sometimes you have to be something in edit mode and the other one in object mode, but I don't remember the examples. I'm getting really tired. Do you work in Europe or in the US or another country? I'm Canadian. I work in Canada, Montreal, Canada. I'm just skipping very fast here. Blender doesn't look good so far. If you just use Blender, vanilla Blender, for the UVs, I'm sorry. I love Blender Bob, and everything. It's not Maya Bob, but for the UVs, it's just like no. And okay, this is how it's like for me. Because I had some people on Twitter who asked me, like, I think it was on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever, said, well, what's wrong with Blender? What do you want more in Blender? So for me, it's like, you want to make fire and you spark two rocks together and you have some sparks and you got fire and you're like, hey, I know how to make fire. And then somebody comes with a magnifying glass and, hey, look, this is how I make fire. And oh, wow. Then later somebody comes with a match. Hey, much easier than a lighter. And when you have Maya, and you have to understand that Maya also have plugins to make it even better and more efficient. So if you have Maya with all the plugins that you can imagine, you get a flamethrower. So if you don't know what's out there, then you cannot compare your tools to anything else. So you don't know what's out there. So it's very important to know everything in every software. Of course, it's impossible. I don't know anything about Cinema 4D, for example. So I don't know if UV editing in C4D is good. And Houdini, I don't know. I know Maya, I know Blender. And in Maya, well, at the time, I was like this Master Jedi UV unfolder guy. Anybody who had something to unfold in Maya would like, please bring it on. Because for me, unfolding UVs is it's a relaxing thing. You just select your edge, unfold, poof, 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 orient. And it's super easy to do because I have the right tools to do them. So that's everybody hates UVs. I love doing UVs. For me, it's very, very relaxing. Press tab for UV projections. Yeah, I'm not saying I know everything about Blender. Of course, there are things that I probably missed, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of comments saying, hey, you could do this, you could do that. Sure. But I do my best. Okay, so I've been using Blender only since 2.8, so there are things that are missing. And when I had the discussion with the guy from one of the dev from the Blender Institute, there was some stuff I didn't know, like different ways of unfolding and by unwrapping, that I didn't know that you could do your unwrap and then you had special things here that you could, different ways of doing it. So he showed me some stuff, I showed him some stuff. So it was a very, very cool demonstration. It was a very cool thing. But the biggest thing for me is just that live link thing. I just don't get it, and keep having to select either this or select all, and it's a big. I feel like I'm turning in circle, just repeating myself. So maybe it's time for me to say thank you so much for listening. I hope I covered everything. Go get the UV toolkit. I will try to find it because I have it for a while and try to put it in the description. Texel Density, it also works here in the UV editor, but it works here also in the main view, which is pretty cool because it works in object mode. I have another one called UV Magic, but I hate this one because you keep popping and aligning, and there's no icons. It's just text based, but there was a few features that I liked in it. I don't remember which one because I don't do them enough, but there were some cool stuff in it also. So that's it. I'm tired. My brain is just going, it's burning hot in there. So I thank you very much, And that was a live streaming. Tell me if next time you want me to do other live streaming, or if you want me to go back to the old way, which is much more complicated. I tried to do this video 4 times. Seriously, I recorded a lot of stuff, because usually I record stuff and then I re-record myself, my voice on top, and I edit everything, all the mistakes and everything. I take it out so it looks like I'm so good at everything. No, I got a lot of mistakes and stuff, and I want to make sure that the flow is fast and everything. But when you're live, it's a completely different way of working. So yeah, okay, give me some comments, please. All right, and that will be the end of this stream. Bye bye.